All right, here I am. Never fails. There's always something I end up having to monkey around with at the very last second. But anyway, let's say hi to everybody who's here tonight. Get that going. We got Ron Thompson, Sanudo 145. Good to see you guys. Cast Iron Restore. He's put in an appearance tonight. Candy Archibald. Old jars are your weakness. Yeah, I got some fairly cool old ones here. Then we'll get to them in just a second. Gobbo Jones, Mike Newby, Prairie Queen, Katie Emmert, hi from Northern Illinois. Well, back at you from Northern Wisconsin. Track Rock, all your jars got shine in them. Well, that's something good to keep in your jars. Let's see, Cast Iron Restore, I think. Bookworm 73, nice to see ya. Lisa McWilliams, howdy. So yeah, anyway, my topic tonight, got a couple things I'm going to show you. First of all, I kind of lucked out and came into some really nice, really old jars. I got 4 of them for, I don't know if you'll be able to see the actual price on them, $2.95 a piece at a St. Vincent de Paul, which is a really good price. Prices for old jars, I see all over the place. You know, they're anywhere from $5 to $25 a piece. Yeah, I don't really know much about, you know, the collecting end of them. And, you know, sometimes I know they'll sell like wildfire. Nobody can keep on the shelves anywhere just for old blue jars. And sometimes they'll sit there for months. So it's, you know, really kind of spotty. And like I say, I don't really know much about what the actual prices are, but I know that $3 a piece for 100-year-old jars is pretty damn cheap. So I lucked out. This one here, we try and get my light and angles just right. That's a Boyd Perfect Mason. And all 4 of these jars that I got recently, well, 3 of them anyway, have lids, and on the inside of the lid it says Boyd's patent porcelain lined cap on all of them, even though they're Atlas caps. So Boyd and Atlas must have had some sort of relationship. But you know, that's a pretty cool little jar. I got one here that's a Mason. It's not just a Mason, it is the Mason. So if you ever need a Mason jar, that is the Mason jar. Now they're all in fairly decent shape, and this one here has got a little crack around the rim there, but it's not too badly chipped up on top. What I'm going to use these for is dry storage, because as you see on this last one, you can't use these for canning anymore. You know, I don't know if they would take the heat. You know, they certainly wouldn't take it for pressure canning. But usually they're kind of chipped up. You can see this one here, the rim of that is chipped up. Now, let's see. I didn't show you that one yet. That's another Mason. That's Mason's patent, November 30th, 1858. So that's a pretty old jar. But a lot of times you find old vintage jars that you can't use for canning because the rims are chipped up a bit. But they work great for dry storage. I use them for stuff like rice, beans, dehydrated things, whatever. And you can definitely use them for that. The last one I got that's the Daisy. And that's got the wire bail on it, F.W. Ward and Company. It's not the original lid. That's an Atlas lid. And a lot of the ones that had the wire bails, there was a groove in the top of the lid that the wire would sit on, just kind of hold things together. But that was pretty good shape. Now on this one and that really old Mason jar, you might not be able to see it on camera, but you see that the top of the jar has been ground flat. You know, this one here is kind of chipped up. That's because these ones were made to seal on top of the jar. You'd have the lid, usually a glass lid or a porcelain one, and there'd be a rubber gasket on it, and it would seal on that. Now, once you get a little bit newer, jars were made. Here's one here. That's not the best example. Here we go. Jars were made so that they would either seal on the top or they would seal, they had a big shoulder on them and they would seal on the shoulder. And where's the one I have that has a gasket on it for that? Here it is. They're made for use with the caps, and the cap would seal on the shoulder like that. Modern jars, they have a little bit of a shoulder on them, but not very much. This is a new jar. You can see there's just a little bit of a shoulder there, and these are meant to seal on top too. So once they get chipped up like that on the top of the rim, they won't seal good anymore, and they're not really trustworthy. Now, the biggest thing that you're going to find trouble with if you want to use old jars for like this for dry storage is for trying to find a gasket for them. Old rubbers like this, you can still find them here and there, but usually they're dried out, hard, cracked, and they kind of keep the dust out, but that's about it. But what you can do is, these new storage jars, you see these all over the place. They got the little hinged lid, and they got a rubber gasket on them. That gasket you can get pretty much anywhere. They're real easy to find. Sometimes they're in stores. You can get them on Amazon, for a big packet of them for next to nothing. But those will fit a wide mouth lid. Let's set this aside. If you have a wide mouth glass lid like that, you can also use, that's a gasket off a Tattler lid. They do work. They're a little bit narrow, a little bit small. But what works better for something like this is you put that on there and you set it on top of the jar, and you take a razor blade and you trim off the excess on the outside, and then you'll have a gasket that fits really nice, and you can put your band on there and tighten it down and use it for a storage jar. But anyway, let's see, get some of this set aside. With these old jars, I'm going to set them lids aside. They're kind of corroded a little bit. I'll clean them up some. But I've got a couple of boxes of brand new, unused zinc caps. So I'll use them on them instead. And they do fit. They fit down there. They fit on there just fine. And I'll have to find something for a gasket on them. Like I said, Tattler gaskets work good. They're a little bit small. But if I can find something that's a little wider, a little thicker that I can cut down if I have to fit, that would be even better. But there's lots of different jars out there. Some newer. These are newer ones. I got a couple of them like this. This one's got kind of a square little pattern on it and a flat spot for a label. I don't know if that was ever a canning jar. Yeah, I got to back up and catch my chat here. I got this one. It's the same kind of thing, only instead of squares, it's got little diamonds, little diagonal ones. And this ring, I think, is brass or copper plated, instead of the usual plating. Let me see here. I got to back up into my chat here. Chattering away. Yeah, you can't use old rubbers for canning, especially. If they're not too dried out and cracked up, you can get away with them for dry storage. Let's see, that Mason is cool. Todd Ellis, nice to see you. Let's see, Northern Mark Harper. Got to back it up here, trying to find where it left off. There we go. Got your mac and cheese locked and loaded. Good deal. Spaghetti and meatballs. I haven't eaten supper yet. I'm going to make some pork chops, fry them up. Bumble Nest, Mark Harper, Northern Ohio. Good to see you. Todd Ellis in the Bayou. Yeah, that mason jar is really cool. I thought that was pretty neat. A little warm in here. I'm starting to sweat. Heather, good to see you. The jars. Yeah, those are in pretty good shape. They're not really scratched up bad. They don't have a lot of mineral stain, a lot of mineral buildup on them or nothing like that. So they're really nice shape. Really nice. condition. Quite exquisite. Yeah, and a lot of people, just display them, but if you can find something for a decent seal on them, they work great for dry storage. For, rice, beans, dehydrated things. I dehydrate a lot of stuff, and they work great for that. All about the sealing, baby. Yeah. Yeah, and those blue rings, these are silicone, so they're nice and soft and squishy, and they're pretty thick, too. So they work really good for sealing that. Dollar bills in the big jar? Sadly, no. That would be nice. That was, those are dehydrated mushrooms. I use them for cooking quite a bit. Yeah, it's a big blue 2-quart ball jar. It's a narrow mouth. It's kind of a little bit of a pain for some of the bigger bits. YouTube actually told you were streaming. Came on time finally. Yeah, they're getting a little bit better with their notifications, but they're still not entirely reliable. Yeah, they're pretty cool patterns on some of them. I also got a couple more here I'll show you here. How old is that stove? It's probably from the 1920s, mid-20s to 1930s. Morgan Freedom, nice to see ya. Boiling them in vinegar will remove a white lime. Yeah, but like I said, these here don't have too much buildup on them. Magic mushrooms, sadly, no. That would be kind of fun, but they're just ordinary eating mushrooms. Yeah, rice, macaroni, sugar, tea bags. Yeah, especially if you find a good seal on them, they'll keep the humidity out and moisture. Monarch, no, that's an all-American stove, and that one was sold through Sears because it's got the logo on it, the world's biggest store, which was a tagline for Sears Roebuck. So it's probably something that you get out of the Sears catalog back in the olden days. But as far as I can tell, it was actually made by American Stove Company in Shakopee, Minnesota, because I saw one that's almost identical to it in a antique store. It's blue and white, really pretty stove. It's got a few different features on it, but it's definitely the same basic stove. And yeah, when Sears was alive, not many around anymore. I see there's a few, they call them Sears hometown stores, and they're mostly kind of like a, you can order stuff and pick it up there for the most part. They're not really a full-scale Sears store like it used to be, but they still sell the appliances and that sort of thing in them. And, mostly you would just order up your stuff and that's where it would get delivered to and you could pick it up there. House giveaway. Let's see. Well, anyway, let's see. I showed you that one. I got a bunch of jars like this too, that kind of shape. They got neat little ribs on the side. Kind of cool little jars. Like I said, I don't think these were ever canning jars, but they fit canning lids, so you can seal them up good and away you go. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything. Put my lids back on here before I knock them down. But yeah, the oldest jars had a shape more like that than as jars got newer, they got more of a shoulder to them. But they had that kind of straight taper to them. They taper down into the lid. Put these guys away here. And like I said, I'll clean out them really old lids and I'll set them aside. But for using, I'll use these. These are kind of a cool find. I got 2 boxes of those for $3 a piece. That was nice. They still got the offer for the here to deal with. Get that off the screen. Anyway, yeah, that last one, that might have been a honey jar. You know, I don't know. It kind of looks like something that would be. But they still got the offer on the side for the Ball Blue Book for only 35 cents. And it's got the order form on one of the, you know, little flappers on the top there. So I wonder if I send it into them if they'd actually honor that anymore. Anyway, something else I've been doing is I have been playing with my Kroomkaka this week. And Kroomkaka, get my stuff over here. Get this. The rest of it. They're a Scandinavian thing, mostly Norwegian. And you make them out of iron like that, sort of a waffle iron. Let me get that turned away. You can see that's a cornucopia Kroomkaka iron. Yeah, that's definitely what that says. And they made the thing pretty similar to a waffle iron, only it's pretty thin and it's flat inside. And they make a thin, crispy little wafer. And this is a Alfred Anderson, Minneapolis. Alfred Anderson had a company called the Western Importing Company. And he put his name on everything that he made. They made Kroomkaka irons. They made some waffle irons, a few other things. They made monk pans, which were basically Abel-skeever pans, and put his name on it. And in 1915, he got run off of his own company, and they went to just Western Importing Company. Except for the very first couple of years back in the 1890s that they made things like this, they didn't actually make them. They farmed them out. In the first few years, they hired local foundries to make them. But after that, after about 1896, 98, they contracted with Griswold. So this is actually a Griswold-made iron. And the base for it is a Griswold waffle iron base. I don't know if you can quite see it. It has the Griswold part number. That's a 975 base. And right below it, it says WI Coal for Western Importing. And this will fit any number 8 Griswold waffle iron, or any waffle iron base of the right size will fit these things. But anyway, you would make these wafers and you roll them up on a cone, make a shell out of them, and then you let them cool off, and you could fill them with pretty much anything, either a sweet filling for more of a dessert type of thing, or you could make a more savory filling, some sort of like a ground fish, or any number of a million different things. And the shells themselves, you can make them either sweeter, or you could add different herbs and spices to them and make more of a savory type of thing. But I'll be doing the video on that. I've been practicing on them, doing them on the cook stove, figuring out what I need for the fire and to get them just right. And got my filling all perfected. So that's all going to be pretty cool. I should have that video up by this weekend. I'll probably do it tomorrow, or film it tomorrow or Friday, and get that out. So that ought to be fun. But it's been a lot of fun playing around with this thing. And get this set aside so I don't knock it over. Back up here and get caught up with the chat here. Yeah, I wonder if that last jar was funny. Yeah, like I said, I'm not really sure, but kind of looks like it might have been. And I got a couple of them that are kind of similar to that. That one's got, I don't know if it's been burnt or whatever, but it's got some kind of a discoloration to it, mineral stains, and they just won't come off. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to find. A lot of people are really into collecting jars. I got, like I said, I got some of these ones here, and I got a few other old ones that I use for storage. And you can display them if you want to, if you don't want to take a chance of breaking your ancient jar when you're trying to pour some rice out of it. Kroomkaka stove is older than you're pretty much older than anybody in the room, I'm pretty sure. So have jars from that mines high in Colorado. Yeah, they really started canning things back in the early 1800s. It was an innovation of Napoleon's army, actually, trying to store food for soldiers. And they started working out, the processes and the equipment that they needed to can things in jars. Irons. Yeah, you need cardamom seed. Yeah, that's one of the recipes for the Kroomkaka shells. The cardamom for if you're making something with a more savory filling, or the ones I'm doing are more of a sweeter dessert type of filling. Yeah, don't send in the 35-cent offer. They'll wind up with an outdated ball book. I got a couple of the old ones, and some pretty good stuff in there. You got to adjust. Some of it isn't really approved anymore, and different processes. You got to kind of old canning books are really cool. You got a lot of good recipes, but you gotta double check and kind of cross reference some of the recipes in them to make sure that they're still something you actually want to do. It's still approved. Any of the jars have number 13 on the bottom? Not that I've noticed. Stove giveaway soon? No, I ain't giving away a stove anytime soon, but I will be giving away some other stuff fairly soon. I got a couple of items I'm going to give away for when I hit 40,000 subscribers. And I might do something before then too. It depends on what I get. Some of the kind of square jars with wide mouth are for comb honey. Yeah, that could be. It's got kind of a beehive look to it. I could definitely see that being a comb honey jar. How long have I had that? I've had that for probably 30 years. Yeah, trolls are out again. Well, it adds viewers and comments on the thing. As long as they aren't too much of a hassle. They can be mildly entertaining every now and then. And it's all good for the algorithm. Let's see. Where am I here? Yeah, Grappy Lobster had a stream last night, and they got to be enough of a pain that we had to finally put the chat on subscriber only mode. Found a chart online, the manufacturer dates depending on how ball was spelled. Yeah, I suppose they changed their logo over the years. Went from the balls patent, to different kinds of script on them. Let me check something here quick. I was looking for. Anyway. Found one that you really liked and purchased and broke it on the way to your car. Yeah, that happens. I've broken many things. Are there any jars that are worth more than another? Usually the blue jars go for, a fair bit of money. It's kind of like I say, I don't know much about the actual pricing, and I've seen prices that are just all over the place on pretty much the same sort of thing. But I would imagine that, something like the, 1858 mason jar is probably worth a fairly good amount of money. I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised, 20, $25 or more or less. But something like this would definitely be worth more than, one like this little checkered pattern one, because I'm pretty sure this is from the, 50s, 60s. It's not all that terribly old. So a lot of it would kind of, depend on mostly how old they are. And the blue ones are usually worth more than the clear ones as a general rule. But like I say, it's not really my area of expertise. Let's see here. I don't know what I was looking for. Where did that go? Catch back up here. Yeah, the trolling can get to be kind of a distraction. But cast iron illusion. Yeah, the evil moderators. The square jars with the waffle and diamond patterns are actual canning jars. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was never really sure. Never really sure which ones were. Like I said, some of the jars I have, I know pretty well aren't really canning jars. But I suppose you could use them in a pinch, but you're best off not to. When am I going to have guest talkers like Grampy Lobster? Oh, I've had one guest on. One of these days I'll get around to it. I'm still not terribly great with the running running Streamlabs, but there are some people I'd like to have on as guests if Elon Musk ever gets off the dime, so me and you acres can get decent internet up there in Canada. I'd like to have them guys on sometime. Where's my finger loop stoneware whiskey jug? I don't have any of those. I do have a couple old crock jugs around that I found in the course of my work back when I was doing water and sewer. Made Sanudo a mod, yeah, because that's the reason why he does save his toenail clippings in mason jars. And I like frugal people. You never know when you're going to need a jar full of toenail clippings, because they do come in handy now and then. Yeah, you need that good internet. Yeah, they can't really stream above 240p on the internet they got up there right now. So Anchor Hocking is another one, the small company. Yeah, they do. There's Anchor Hocking jars. They're still around, I think. I know they made a lot of Pyrex type glassware. A lot of bakeware, cookware, measuring cups, that sort of thing. And they're kind of in competition with Pyrex. Don't know what's going on, but Verizon is really kicking the bucket in your area. Yeah, I don't know, because it's kind of annoying. You can't drive around anymore and not get out of sight of a cell phone tower. And there's still so many dead spots around, at least in this area. It's unreal. But my local phone cooperative, we've actually got fiber optic run everywhere now. It took a while to get them to do it. And then they finally got it done, I don't know, it must be 6 or 7 years ago. So even out here in the hinterlands, you can get actual fiber optic internet, which is kind of surprising for the backwoods that we are. Yeah, the square is an open spot for labels. Yeah, I kind of figured that. But let's see. Verizon is the only works in your hometown, and it barely does at that. Yeah, I mean, some of them, they got the cable monopolies locked down, and the phone companies kind of moved in on the cable aspect of things. So you get kind of stuck with one company, maybe two at the most if you're doing wireless, and neither one of them's any good. And a lot, there's still a lot of places that rely on the, copper phone lines for landline systems. And they've been pushing for years for a lot of them to do it, but most of them are, bigger phone companies like Verizon or long distance carriers like that. And the smaller local companies don't want to spend money on it. But like I said, the, our local phone company is a cooperative, so it's, not for profit. They pay back the profits to the members, but they usually do a pretty good job of keeping up with the technology and maintenance and all that around here. So they actually made the investment to go with fiber optic a few years ago, and it's been really nice. But I know there's a lot of places that are really antiquated systems. I mean, even by the standards of copper phone line technology, that are just insanely behind, and they just don't want to spend the money on things like that because they figure they'll never make it back. Camouflage cell phone towers, I suppose, make them a little bit less of a obvious eyesore. Milo wants in. Oh, that's Jesse outside barking. Making a nuisance out of himself. Farm and Garden is the other brand. Did I say the name of the store in Shakopee? No, it wasn't a store. It was a company in Shakopee, the American Stove Company, that made that stove for Sears. And there's American Stove Company stoves out there. I think they're still in business, but I'm pretty sure you couldn't just walk in and buy a stove like that from them anymore. Farm and Garden is the other brand. Yeah, there's, Atlas. They made jars quite a while. I got some Atlas jars. I'm trying to think here. Atlas Kerr. Ball and Kerr. They were probably the two biggest ones. monkey around over here a little bit. I'll play with that later, I guess. I might have to go shut my dog up. He's making himself a nuisance. But anyhow. What all do I collect or want to get into other than cast iron? Cast iron pretty much covers what I got. I was just showing these off because I got them this week, and they're pretty cool. Did I see that Mike's going to be sitting around at the round table on Thor's channel? No. Is that going to be tomorrow when he does that? Yaker, they're another brand of jars. College named Ball State, I think they make the jars there. It could be. There used to be a big glass industry in Indiana, but I don't know if Ball State has anything to do with Ball jars. And nowadays they're all Ball and Kerr and Bernadine, Rubbermaid. There's a bunch of brands that are all owned by a company called Newell Products. So even though they're different brand names, they're still, they're all made by the same company. Seems like winter is a slow time to find any cast iron. Yeah, I didn't. I found a few things here and there, but it does kind of slow down. Usually kind of picks up in the spring. School was founded by the Ball brothers, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. If it actually was, the Ball jar people. Ball shut down the factory in Muncie. Yeah, like I said, I know they used to have a lot of different glass companies were based in Indiana. Yeah, I'll have to check that out tomorrow, Angie. That's going to be on Thorhaven channel, I'm sure. Anyway. Oh, what's with all the trolls? Well, you got to have something to do, I guess, to fill your time. Trolling on somebody's channel can be rather entertaining. I mean, I don't mind all that much. Can be a bit of a distraction and a pain in the ass at times. But if you manage to do a good enough job and you're entertaining, people will kick you around, but just repeating waffles, nobody's really all that impressed with it. Let's see. And you have managed to distract me just enough. It doesn't take a whole lot to distract me. So I forgot what I was going to get on with, but I always do that. Get busy on one thing and forget what I'm going to cover next. Finally able to get your grandma's cast iron. great grandma's. Left off to eat to kill the bed bugs. We had to dump a lot of stuff, sadly, because we want to take the risk of any survivors. Yeah, big bugs, bed bugs can be a pain. If there's bugs on cast iron, you just throw it in the oven and fry the little buggers. But yeah, it's kind of a shame because when my wife's mother died, she'd had a guy who was a boarder with her for years, and he had boxes and boxes of old 40s, 50s, and 60s sci-fi books. And problem is, he kept them down in the basement, and they got molded and mildewed and damp, and there's no salvaging them. Ended up having to burn damn near all of them. But just going through them, some of the cover art on those was just really neat cover art on them. And there's a lot of people that collect them, and if they would have been in decent shape, it would have been, quite a bit of money. But there was just nothing to salvage anymore. I mean, they'd been wet too many times. They'd been molded and mildewed. Let's see here. Did I get the $11 Dutch oven cleaned? No, I didn't get the Dutch oven itself cleaned, but that's the other thing I was going to show. I'll be right back here in a second. That's over here. Let's see, back up. Start my camera back up. There we go. Had so much stuff you couldn't just bug bomb the place. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you would do with something like that if you can't bug bomb it. I didn't get the Dutch oven itself cleaned up. I think I'll save that for summer when I got my electrolysis tank set up and show you, the shadow effect and how you can clean the inside of deep pots and Dutch ovens. But I did get the lid cleaned up, soak that in a vinegar bath. I don't know what that black streak on it is, but it doesn't want to come off. But that came out real nice. A little bit of roughness and pitting kind of along this edge here, but it came out really good. Came out nice and clean. Put it in the vinegar, and I kind of forgot about it. It was in there for about 3 days, and really only needed a few hours, but didn't hurt it too much. You can tell that it's got a little bit of a texture to it, but not really roughness. And most of that smoothed right up with when I scrubbed it with steel wool. Molly Smith. Hi, Molly. Betty shows the lid. Yes, I did show the lid. You were correct on that one. So you must have won at least a dozen internet points on that bet. If I ever run across any of the old violet colored jars. No, I haven't. I haven't seen any of those. Those would be kind of cool. But yeah, that lid cleaned up real nice. Had a bunch of books with the same problem. Yeah, it was a real shame. I mean, it was heartbreaking just to toss them all in the fire, but there was just no saving them. Because, like I said, the cover art on some of them was just incredible stuff. But yeah, like I said, with an electrolysis tank, when you have something that's really deep or has a real complex shape to it, you'll get kind of a shadow effect because the electricity wants to flow from the surfaces that are closest to the electrodes in the tank. So if you have something that's way inside, even if you try and hang it and turn it in different directions, the electricity will always take the shortest route, the path of least resistance, and you'll end up with spots that don't clean very well. And there's a couple of ways around it. If you're trying to do electrolysis on a deep kettle or a Dutch oven, there's some things you can do so that you can get the inside cleaned out real good. Any idea what an 8-inch cast iron lid would fit on? I haven't found anything it fits on for a smaller Dutch oven or something. Yeah, it could be. 8-inch, that's like a number 6. They did make a few smaller Dutch ovens and some other kind of little pot type things, like drawing a blank on it, but I've seen them. Anyway, there are smaller things, and you might get you might find a skillet that it fits on, something like that. So, hang on to it. Eventually, you'll come across something that'll fit. Ordered some quilt books from eBay, and they're all molded. Had to throw them out. Yeah, that's nasty. And there's really nothing you can do with it once paper gets moldy. I suppose there's some ancient manuscript that was, priceless. There's professional restorers that can do something with it, but it's not going to be worthwhile to try and do that with a quilting book. I found number 8, large little Dutch oven. Still has the bail. Has a little warp on the bottom on a gas, by cook on gas, so it's not a problem. Yeah, a little bit of spin and wobble on the bottom usually doesn't cause too much of a problem. The only time you're going to run into something like that is if you have a flat top stove, and you can't really do much with it then. But for baking, and if you have an electric stove with elements on the surface, or a gas stove, you're just fine. It might take a little bit more oil in the bottom of the pan, but that's it. And a lot of times you can talk them down on the price too, something like that. If it's got a little bit of warp to the bottom, that can actually work in your favor. You can get a few bucks off on the price. Doesn't fit number 6 Griswold or Wagner. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say what will fit then. It might fit, some other brand. It might fit a Favorite or a Lodge or a BSR. Does it have a, this is a BSR lid. BSRs, they had little dimples sunk into them, and that's how you can tell they're BSR. The older ones, they were kind of a random pattern. This one, you can see they're nice straight lines and kind of straight lines and circles, so they're all organized. But the Lodge ones usually had little tips on them. Underneath the handle on it, does it have kind of a dip underneath the handle and a wide flat handle on it, Tim? Made sourdough English muffins in the wood stove. Yeah, that sounds real good. I got to get my sourdough starter out again here pretty soon and do some bread making with it. You'd be surprised how long a sourdough starter can last in the fridge. If you make sure that you put it in a clean jar and don't get anything splashed up on the sides, just pour it right directly in a clean jar after you fed it and put it in the fridge, and you leave that hooch on top, that layer of liquid, because that has a lot of alcohol and acid in it, and that'll basically preserve your starter. And once you're ready to use it, you can just stir that back in, start feeding it again. It'll take a couple of 3 days usually, but you can bring it right back, and it will it'll work just fine. I've left mine for a long time without feeding it in the refrigerator. Sometimes, depending on the amount of mold, you can use a heat gun hair dryer to get rid of mold on paper and leather. Well, that'd work. Did some Wagners come brand new with a spin? I heard that they did. Yeah, there's some, mostly from the, mostly from about the mid 50s on into the 60s and 70s. A lot of them had a little bit of wobble to them right from the factory. What's the purpose of dimples? That's so the condensation on the lid will drip back into whatever you're cooking. Most lids have some kind of a, drip tip on them. lodge have little spikes on them, some sort of pattern, where the condensation can actually drip off of instead of just running all the way back down to the edge of the lid and down the side of the pot that you're cooking in. 2 large dimples underneath where the handle connects to the pan. I don't have it, but some Asian lids from Asian skillets, they have like a big dip underneath the handle, so you have more room for your fingers. And those are kind of odd sized, because they're made to sit on a pan. They just have a straight rim on them. They don't have the step like most lids do. And those kind of fit weird on most skillets. They'll fit on the skillets they were made for, because instead of having the rim on the lid, they would put a rim on the skillet itself for the lid. But 2 large dimples underneath where the handle connects to the pan. Yeah, it's not ringing any bells what sort of lid that might be, but eventually you might find something that fits, or you just keep looking around, you might be able to identify it. There's a dip under the handle. 2 large dimples underneath and a dip under it. Yeah, that might be an Asian lid. Then, now I read your other comment. When it comes to the edge, does it just have kind of a little bit of a beveled edge on the edge of the lid, instead of having, a step type deal like that? Yeah, it's a straight rim. Yeah, that's probably an Asian one then. Hoping it wasn't Chinese. Even if it doesn't fit perfectly in a skillet, lids like that are actually kind of nice, because they'll sit down a little bit, because the edges of the sides of the skillet are usually tapered. As long as it's not sitting right down in your food, you can still use it on a lot of different skillets, even if it's a little bit small and kind of sits down into the skillet some. So they're still usually pretty usable. But yeah, that's more than likely, Asian, Taiwanese, Chinese. Anyway, need a little sip here. Cool. So yeah, I'll get that seasoned up, and I just now started stripping that chicken fryer that I got. That unmarked Wagner $15 chicken fryer I got. Damn it. As soon as I turn the camera on, that's when you start getting the little itches and scratches. I mean, I could sit here all night and not have anything itch, but as soon as you start broadcasting, my nose will start to itch, or it's going to scratch behind my ear. Makes it look like I got bugs. Do I season with grapeseed or flaxseed oil? No, what I usually use is I'll give it a couple of coats of Easy Beezy, which does have grapeseed oil in it. It's grapeseed oil and beeswax. I think avocado oil, and comes in a stick. It's actually sold by a guy who has a channel here on YouTube. It's his channel is Cast Iron Cookware. It's Steven Strawn. He's been selling that for a few years, and that works pretty good. Gives it a real nice base coat, and then I'll usually use a layer or two of clarified butter over the top of that. But you can use, grapeseed and flaxseed oil work good. Flaxseed oil, a lot of people are really sold on it, where you put on an extremely thin coat of it, bake it at 500-600 degrees for an hour, and put like 10 or 12 coats on it, and you build up layers and layers of this stuff. And you do get a real hard, slick surface out of it. But what you're basically doing is varnishing your pan, because flaxseed oil is food-grade linseed oil. And linseed oil has been used for a base for paints and varnishes for centuries. So really what they're doing is they're varnishing the pan, and it works great for a while until it'll start to flake off eventually, because trying to varnish iron doesn't work really good without a primer, and you're not going to use a primer on cast iron. Your dad's trying to fix a Griswold chicken fryer. Large crack runs parallel underneath the handle, so he's going to try and break it off and weld it back on. Yeah, it could work. You'd probably be better off not breaking it off. I would drill a small hole at each end of the crack. Make sure you find the ends of it, and then bevel the edges of the crack a bit, and then weld that in instead of snapping it all the way off first. And when you do it, be sure you preheat the pan before you start welding. Put it in your oven, get it heated up to 450, 500 degrees, and then weld it while it's still hot. I was going to do it this summer, but I didn't get the chance. But I'm going to do some videos on welding and brazing on cast iron. Of course, I'll have to get a little practice in before I actually start filming at it. But I've got the stuff. You can use a stick welder. You have to use nickel 55 rods. Is what they usually call them. They're a high nickel welding electrode. And you can do it with wire feed, but it's the same thing. You have to use a high nickel wire, because if you use regular mild steel wire or common mild steel electrodes, it'll just crack again, because the steel really shrinks a lot when it goes from liquid back to solid. And cast iron has almost no ductility to it. So what'll happen is, as the weld shrinks, it'll just crack the iron again on one side or the other, or both sides of the spot you just welded. So with the high nickel electrodes, it doesn't shrink nearly as much. I use mainly avocado oil. Yeah, avocado oil works good. Let's see here, which doesn't sound appetizing. It was a different spot. Yeah, I've kind of wanted to do that too. I've seen videos and seen where people have made big spatulas out of old cast iron pans that are busted or cracked. But yeah, all of mine are cracked in the wrong spot too, so I couldn't get away with making a spatula out of them. Some are pretty neat. Especially if you can get enough where you can keep the logo and the names and stuff on it. Back it up here. Already did the hole to prevent the crack from spreading, but the weld he used couldn't get into the crack. It was some mixture you're supposed to weld it. Yeah, like I say, it's mainly you got to use high nickel. Whether it's a wire feed or stick welding, you have to use a high nickel stuff to prevent cracking, or you can braze it. You can silver solder it too. I don't know how to make clarified butter, but I know you can buy it at Kroger. It's not hard. I just put it in a double boiler, melt the butter, kind of let it cook for a few minutes. Then you can skim off, because it'll foam up a bit on top. Skim that off. Then you carefully pour off the butter fat, and you leave the water and milk proteins behind. And then do that twice, and there you got clarified butter. Where do I find most of my cast iron? A lot of the stuff usually I get it at secondhand stores. Some of it I get at antique shops or flea markets, sometimes thrift sales. Mostly, I would say it's mostly from secondhand stores, if you just keep your eyes open. Usually I get to town once a week or so, and I'll kind of make the rounds through the Goodwill and, the other secondhand shops. Sometimes you find something, a lot of times you don't, but you just keep at it. Eventually you can find things. Antique stores are a good source too. You'll pay more for them. You'll pay more, close to retail price on things. But they usually got, quite a lot of different things depending on what you're looking for. Oh, and that reminds me, last weekend I got a call from the gal who sold me that great big favorite roasting pan. Her and her husband are down in Arizona. They go down, they head south in the winter, buy up a bunch of stuff for her shop and come back up here in the spring. And she called me and said she's got a bunch of cast iron that she found, a bunch of nice hammered stuff, some different sort of Griswold things. And she said she'd give me first look at the stuff when she gets back up here before she puts it out on the shelves. So that's kind of nice of her. Any life advice? Yeah, don't eat the yellow snow. Watch out where them huskies go. Use only grapeseed oil. It gives a great color. Yeah, the that easy beezy with the beeswax and grapeseed, gives it a nice dark color. I don't worry too much about the color though, because that'll come in time as I use it. But it takes longer for some things than others, and how much you use it. Restoring a chicken fryer for a friend turned out to be a Foster Stove Company number 8 fryer. Yeah, I've never heard of them before either. Curious if they're common or more rare. Yeah, they're probably fairly rare. Like I said, I've never heard of them, but it wasn't uncommon for stove companies to make hollowware. A lot of times though they didn't market, they didn't put their name on it. But yeah, it's probably fairly scarce, I would say. If I get a chance, I'll look into it a little bit and see if I can find out anything about them. In fact, I got my handy little notebook here finally for writing things down. Let me get to a new page. Let's see. Foster Stove. Look them up. Yeah, I'll see if I can find anything on it. That sounds pretty neat. Yeah, I like easy beasy a couple, 3 times, and just go to cooking on it. Yeah, I always pretty much just go to cooking on it as soon as you get done with seasoning in the oven. Usually, I pretty much always do fried potatoes in them because they really work good for breaking them in. Billy Lee. Oh, you showed up just in time for us to wrap things up. Just about done here. Secondhand stores are fun. Yeah, you can find a lot of cool stuff. Well, that's where I found these jars. That was at a St. Vincent de Paul thrift store. They had a few other ones there too. Some newer old ball blue jars, but I already have some of those, so I left them for the next guy. But these were still there, so I grabbed them. Those are pretty cool to find. What's your take on hammered cast iron? I like hammered cast. It's pretty cool looking. I got some Chicago Hardware Foundry. I got a little number 5 hammered lodge. Yeah, that's pretty nice. All of them made it. Wagner and Griswold did too. The lodge tended to have a lot finer pattern to it, a lot smaller dimples. And a lot of the Griswold did too. They had pretty fine dimples. But some of the Wagner ware, they had a couple different sizes, and some of them had really big dimples. And I'd like to get some of that one of these days because it's really cool looking. Yeah, a lot of resellers pick the secondhand stores clean. Yeah, you got to be lucky enough to get there when it's there. Yeah, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that I've never seen that was gone before I got there, but every now and then you'll walk in at the right time to get things. Don't chase headlights. Yeah, that's good life advice too. Always assume the other driver's an idiot. That's a good one. One-legged man shouldn't get into a butt-kicking contest. Let's see. Oh, yeah, your puppy. Puppies are fun. She should get to be a fairly big dog, isn't she? Is it, said it was a Bernedoodle. You know, Bernese get pretty big, and standard poodles, you know, a pretty good sized dog too. As much as you chew, and now big puppies will chew on big things like, you know, walls and furniture if you're not careful. So you'll want to find her something good to chew on that she likes. I'm doing grapeseed. I can easily tell once it starts picking up the black sheen after cooking a few times. Yeah, you know, a lot of people like grapeseed. Your bill. 2 hammered unmarked Southern Mystery. Yeah, they're probably not Southern Mystery skillets. They're called ugly hammered. They got kind of a you know, kind of a random faintish pattern, kind of crude looking pans. They're nice pans. They cook good. I got a couple of those too, and most people are pretty sure they were made in the Northeast, you know, by 3 or 4 different companies. You know, but they're pretty cool pans too. And like I said, you know, they usually got kind of a random pattern, kind of not really deep hammering to them. Hence the name Ugly Hammered. Let's see. Anyway, I've been at this for an hour and 5 minutes now. We still got 34 people watching, which is pretty good. It's always nice to have 34 or 35 people watching. So I'm going to wrap it up for the week. Like I said, I'd probably be posting the Croomcock video sometime this weekend. Should get her done here in a couple of days. Regarding Olde Jarres, you know what type the milk glass inner lid goes to? Sometimes collected a few of them, but not the jars. No, they kind of went with everything. You know, like the, you know, even these newer old zinc caps, they got a milk glass insert. And these really old ones here too have the same sort of thing. You know, they usually call it porcelain, but it's, you know, it's actually glass. So, you know, I don't think, you know, there might be specific brands, but I don't think they went to any specific jar brand because, yeah, they're pretty common throughout all the cap type ones like that. You know, there's, you know, unless you're talking about the, you know, the glass lids like this that are just a, you know, separate lid. You know, again, you know, I've got ball ones like this and a few Kerrs, and they're, you know, they're all just kind of, you know, generic. They're not specific to any brand. But anyway, like I said, mine don't have zinc around them. Yeah, you know, I don't know if they're specific for anything. So anyhow, I'll see you all next week, and we'll wrap her up here and call it a day. See you later.